Welcome to the Edelman Investor Summit. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Andy Wilde. I'm the Global Chair of Financial Services at Edelman, and I'm also your host for the day. As everyone will be painfully aware from the various emails that they've received from us over the last week, this was originally intended as a wholly fully in-person event until Omicron intervened. And then we offered, obviously, the chance for the audience to join virtually, and many people exercised that option. So first of all, thank you everyone who came along in person, and thank you to everyone joining us via live stream as well. Great to have you with us. As you can probably imagine, I spent most of yesterday fretting/crying about what the government guidance would be at 6 o'clock. So I must say that it's not only a pleasure, but a considerable relief that I'm actually allowed to stand here and talk to you today. I am entirely confident that the remarks delivered to you from this lectern will be much more upbeat and definitely more focused on capital markets than the remarks delivered from the other lectern yesterday. We're exceptionally proud to be able to host this event. And we're also exceptionally proud to work very closely with some of the brightest, biggest, best investment firms in the world. And it's a privilege as part of the day job, not just for me, but for all of our team, to be able to discuss day in, day out with fund managers and investors what they're thinking in real time about the issues which are dictating the shape of companies and markets, both macro and micro. And that was really the genesis of this conference, to stimulate debate among a group of prodigiously intelligent, obviously, and also very, very influential individuals within our client base, and also give a wider audience access to their current thinking going into next year. We had termed the event, and you'll have noticed in emails that I've gradually airbrushed it out, but we had termed the event Valuation Drivers and Risk Factors Post-COVID and COP26. I can confirm with absolute certainty that we are post-COP26, but we may have been a bit optimistic on the post-COVID aspect, but the gist remains very much the same. So this morning you will hear about the macro backdrop to 2022, how investors' expectations of vis-a-vis sustainability in companies are changing, and also how investors are thinking about the big themes for corporate governance and management teams. Then there will be a delicious, and because of the thinned out audience, rather large repast, after which we'll be doing a bit of a deep dive into specific sectors, namely financials, healthcare, tech, and energy. And to discuss those topics and those sectors, we've got the CEOs, CIOs, heads of equity, heads of fixed income, senior portfolio managers from some of the world's biggest and best investment firms. If you were to combine all of the assets of the firms talking to you today, you would get somewhere north of 15 trillion. So they are, in short, very big hitters indeed. But enough about them, because you'll hear enough from them later on. Before we get to our panels, just as a bit of a thought starter, I wanted to share a few of our own statistics from a recent piece of research that we did that we term Investor Trust. That is a global survey of institutional investors. And so three stats just to chuck at you from the off. Number one, 82% of investors say that they think companies frequently overstate or exaggerate their ESG progress when disclosing results. Secondly, 70% of investors don't trust companies to achieve their stated ESG or DE&I commitments. And thirdly, exec remuneration and boardroom structure are the two top issues that investors say they're most likely to engage around in terms of shareholder activism. So I'm pretty certain that ESG and the factors that sit below E, S, and G individually will become recurrent topics throughout the day, as will the way that boards and investors engage with one another. So I'm kind of tabling these figures now just to have in the back of your minds, because they may give you a bit of a different lens through which to view some of the discussions that we're about to see today. And before I seamlessly and elegantly segue to my left to moderate our first panel of the day, I've got a few housekeeping rules that I'm obliged to mention. One, today's panels are all on the record, so we've got members of the media here physically, and we've got quite a number of media here virtually. And so we do want a full and open discussion, but please do bear in mind, at the risk of sounding like I'm covering my own behind, that anything said in the discussion can potentially be printed. Number two, please be sensitive to the COVID safety rules that we've got in place. Just a note on those, between each session we'll be disinfecting microphones and seating areas, so there might be a brief hiatus between sessions. Please bear with us. Bathrooms can be found out there near the kind of cafe area that you hit when you came in. Feel free to ask a member of our team if you need to find anything. Also, if you get lost in the building, just shout and someone will eventually find you. Importantly, there is no fire drill scheduled today. So if you hear a fire alarm, it's real. Run, or no, don't run, obviously. Make your way in an orderly fashion to an exit. But yeah, there's no alarm scheduled. And lastly, Q&A. For those in the room with me, we've got roving mics. Please just raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. The mics will be cleaned after every question. And for those joining virtually, please submit questions via the functionality. These will be monitored by a couple of our team, and then those questions will be posed to the panelists from Julia and Imogen to my right. That's enough from me. So I'll now invite the panelists for our first session of the day to join me on stage. You can tell that was a prepared remark, because obviously they're there already. And we'll talk about the macro outlook for 2022. Thank you very much indeed, and I'm really excited about today. Thanks.